morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us again this morning. I have a personal apology to make because I stayed up quite a while last night trying to encode the Tivoli Theatre documentary that should have been uploaded at 5:20 this morning along with Paracom, and unfortunately I've gone into the streaming service and it was scheduled for 5:20 this afternoon. Now this is my fault entirely and I'm really sorry. It's probably one of those lots of exhaustion and just coupled with everything that's been going off this weekend. So what I'll do is I will try and post it out later on this evening for you all to look at, because the evidence was astounding and I really want people to have a look at it and be kind, because it is only my first time. So that is my apology this morning from myself to everybody. So thank you very much. It's been an eventful 2 days. I know Karen and the rest of the team have been, tirelessly working behind the scenes. And I just want to say thank you to all of those guys, but also all of you guys as well for coming on and joining us. I've got a little bit of a sore throat. I think it's because I talk too much. So without further ado, I'm going to have a chat to a lovely gentleman who's supported me throughout my paranormal career, is in the vicinity of where I live as well. He's just released a book and we're going to be discussing all about that. So hello, Mr. Frankish, how are you?
I'm not bad, thank you, Jolene, and thank you for the invite.
It's okay. No, I saw that you'd got a new book out, so I thought, oh, why not? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it went off a bit of a tangent to my original plan of writing a book. It was the opportunity. I've always fancied writing a book from day one, but never had the opportunity due to work commitments and basically life commitments and work. And the plan was, my local town of Doncaster has got so much history about it. I thought to myself, I could add to it. But I was looking around, and for the books I've read about the locations, people have already covered it. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I want to be different. I don't want to carry on somebody else's work. I like to do my own research. I'm not one of these who look on Google and find me research or see something up and think that's it. I can type that into it. That's easy work done. I thought it's been so I was rattling my head a little while. And the first lockdown we had, beginning of the year, beginning of last year, should I say? I forgot we changed years now. And I forgot. I thought I got put on furlough from work. And I thought I don't like being cooped indoors. I'm not that kind of person. I like the outdoor life. And I thought, what can I do? I did the radio show at the time with Tom, and I thought I've got enough notes. I can keep myself occupied mentally. I mean, it's not just physical well-being; it's mental well-being as well, as you know. And I thought I can put something together. And I went off and I started writing. And my partner Beth, as you probably know, she writes as well. And she says, no matter how you intend to write a book, it'll always go for the tangent. You won't end up with the visual picture you started off with. And she's right, it went totally off tangent. And my book's a bit of a mismatch of everything at the moment. A little bit about myself, because being a new author, I'd like to know people a little bit more about my lifestyle, my style, my way of thinking. A few of my gripes in there, a few little hints and tips, and basically a few little smidgens of stories, of local stories, which have been lesser covered, if that makes sense.
It's interesting though, because you've been in the paranormal for quite a long time, haven't you?
A long time. I mean, it's my birthday next week, and I won't tell you how old I am. It just if you cut me in half, you count the rings. I've been. I mean, even as a child, I've had a half interest in it, and when I used to live in Wakefield myself, and in those days I used to look at local areas like Kirkgate train station, which is reputed to be haunted, and if you look at local areas, Stanley Road, for example, Pinderfields Hospital, and you probably know all that lot.
I do.
And I decided to look at more lesser known type things. I thought, I kept myself on the radar, because in my day, reading it was in books. That makes me sound really old. So I'm a big fan of books, and I've got a nice little collection. So I'll collated a few bits and bobs up, and I've kept little local-ish things. And when I moved to Doncaster, it was kind of thing. Doncaster is such an historic town. I mean, from Roman times. right up to modern, even modern days. Between the hustle and bustle of old new buildings, you've got the old lovely architecture as well. Because some of it is, I mean, it's not just the paranormal, but you've got your history as well. And in my opinion, you cannot have paranormal without history. One follows the other, definitely. Yeah, the book I decided I was during furlough. I decided in a way to start typing it up, writing it up, and end up. It's not as big a book as I'd like it to be, because I'm looking at doing a trilogy of books, and rather do it in one bit. Like I was recommended to do a introductory to myself and not make it too overcomplicated, so people get to know my style and create myself a little bit of a following. And my next books will be delving more into it, and hopefully, I mean, I'm not saying hopefully another lockdown, but I mean, thanks to the first lockdown, it did give me opportunity to write.
Yeah, and I think it's given everybody a different opportunity, though, to kind of enhance their skills, hasn't it? Even though, we were all talking about the doom and gloom of the lockdown, I've found personally it's been a wealth of, I've worked all the way throughout, so I haven't really had that time away like people who have been furloughed have. Yeah. But they have. I've seen so many people have taken up brand new hobbies, they've taken up new skills. And they're just trying to kind of make a living as well on the side of, trying to, obviously being furloughed, you'll be paid through work, but, trying to make that little bit of extra money on the side as well. I've seen an awful lot of people doing things like that.
It's like I said, I mean, let's say the furlough itself, I mean, I wasn't furloughed for full duration. It was only a few weeks, but it did give you an opportunity. And like I said, being cooked, myself, like I said, I mentioned before, I'm an outdoors person, and I dreaded being cooked up. I've got the garden, but there's always so much you can explore in the garden. So I thought I put my mind to it. So I collected enough notes and things from my experiences, and it popped up as a booked it on Amazon, and it has had quite a good review. Reviews. I'm thankful for.
How much is the book?
It's £5.49 on Amazon at the moment. It's that's on paperback. There's also a Kindle version at £2. So I kept it reasonable. I kept it realistic with pricing as well, because we all know people don't have a lot of money these days. So,
well, I've got my copy.
I've got one as well.
And we've got a copy as well for one of our raffle prizes as well. So that'll go in a little bundle of loveliness, and that will be sent out to one of the lucky people who have bidded on the snowflakes. So it's interesting. So you mentioned Tom as well earlier on. You dealt with Tom. That sounds wrong. You worked with Tom. You worked with Tom on a podcast for a very long time, didn't you?
4 years, yes.
It's this madness. How near?
Yeah, well, nearly. I'll be honest with you, nearly 4 years, because Tom started a Pure Paranormal radio show, and that was basically an online radio show through Post Talk Radio by Cal War, who gave me the opportunity. And Tom interviewed me because he apparently liked my idea, my way of thinking, my ideology. And I was interviewed and on the show, which I thought at the time it was my first radio experience. And I thought, all right, but I enjoyed it. We seem to bounce off each other in quite a way. Which these days, I mean, some people do click quite quickly, but then again, you can get the other types. What they don't seem to be like two opposite magnets. They seem to not push each other away, but not quite compatible. And he interviewed me, and we had a few good reviews, and he had me back on, and I'm back on it again. And before we know it, he offered me the opportunity, because he said it was, as you probably know, working in media, Jolene, it's not easy.
No,
especially research and things, and the guests we have each and every week. We try to keep it as real as possible, but like a chat in a pub, rather than being regimental in such a way, which I think some shows can be.
Yeah, and that's my preferred style. I'd rather find out about people through them, asking the right questions and things like that, because I do think that when you write questions down, it does come across as being quite regimented, and like you're firing things at them all the time. So I think the stance of the conversation, it just flows, and I always think you find out more things about people as well when you do that.
Yeah, it's like a chat in a pub. It's informal. You sit down, you have a drink inside of you, and an hour and a half goes by so quickly. And it is like that. We have every week. We had a list. We collate. We discovered who was guest or guests were. We interview. We set questions. to them, to what their preferred science, for example, was. If it was ghosts, it'd be ghosts. If ufology, and so on. So it was always around them. It sometimes might throw a generic question in there, but it was 90% of his questions were based on the guest.
And it's funny, isn't it, actually? Because when I kind of because I was a bit of an unknown until 2016, and you guys were probably one of the first podcasts that asked me to do something when I seemed to have just bounded onto the scene for some reason, and everybody seemed to know who I was, and then all of a sudden it was kind of like, oh, who's this person? But so I just want to thank you for interviewing me quite early on. It was lovely of you as well.
I remember actually. and if you still want to anyone still wants to catch up on it, it's still on mixcloud.com.
Is it?
So it's still on there. You go to Mixcloud. Every 4 years worth of shows. We're keeping them up there, so people can go back to them, because we had some brilliant guests like yourself, Jolene. There's some really, and not just UK guests, but US guests as well. The US comparisons are brilliant. I mean, we love comparing US methodology to UK methodology, and we're not that different end of the day.
No, and it's funny as well, because a lot of the US people, even though they say that they're into kind of the paranormal, they kind of go down different avenues as well. So they'll like the paranormal and the spirits and the hauntings, but they'll also enjoy the urban legend myths as well. And
yes,
it's so interesting what people actually know. Their knowledge is like unbelievable, and they love all of the UFOs from where we are, because obviously Hull is like a hive of activity, isn't it, for UFOs?
Yes, yes.
And when you talk to the Americans regarding Rendlesham Forest, regarding the goings on, they're not very knowledgeable about the ones in Hull. So you're kind of educating them at the same time.
Like I said, with the US, I mean, it's such a vast about space, and their history regarding panel, like you got your Mothmen, you've got your black-eyed children, but they're everywhere. I mean, like I said, local one in this, as you know, the UK, half an hour you could be in one county, and that half an hour you could be in another county. It could take 5 hours to get to the next county in the US, and it's all these like communities together. They've all got their own little stories of so and so down there, so and so's down there, and it's collating with people like that. And it's not just on the show. We didn't just have people who were known. We had people lesser known. I mean, I don't consider myself well known. I mean, I've not done TV work. I've done magazine work. I've done radio work.
You are very well known, though, within the paranormal community in the UK. You are very well known.
That's nice to say. Thank you. I don't consider myself that. I mean, I do what I say. I started off as when I lived in Wakefield, and I've had a few experiences myself. But I've never been one for the limelight in a way. I mean, I could accept it, and I can leave it if it came to it. Because when I started, my way of getting in contact with people is I'll be writing to them or ringing them and actually meeting them in person. And I decided, when I moved to Doncaster, I decided to create my BRF Paranormal group, which basically I thought, I wasn't a big fan of Facebook, to be honest with you. In a way, I'm still a bit dubious about it, but then again, there's good and bad in all, isn't there?
Yeah.
So yeah, you tend to find. I mean, so for one thought, what should I do? I thought I'll get myself out there and create my little group online, get people like-minded people together, because I thought there's groups for everything on Facebook, on social media. Even there's even ketchup groups. I mean, if there's things like that on it, there's some strange and crazy groups out there. But I mean, each to their own. I mean, if it keeps them happy, they're not harming anybody. Why not? Eh?
Exactly.
And I thought, with the paranormal, it's such a massive umbrella. I thought I got my group up there. I had a few local people supporting me, I knew, and it's grown. It's not a massive group. It's an honest group, I'd like to say, and it keeps your feet on the floor. Yeah,
it does. And it's, it doesn't matter if it's a huge group, you will always have your dedicated followers regardless of what you put out there. But it's those people, as long as you stay true to yourself and you don't get sucked into this negativity and drama llamas that are out there. And I say that with
I love that phrase.
I always say drama llamas, and it just reminds me of that Shaun the Sheep, where they had those.
Yeah, I think of that. Yeah, it's a bit. Honestly.
I just sit there and think, oh gosh, and I have that thought, and I just giggle. But anyway, so you mentioned Wakefield, and you lived in Wakefield and had your own experiences in Wakefield. Do you want to share those with us?
First of all, I used to, yeah, as you, I mean, you used to live in Wakefield, don't you? I mean,
I
yeah.
do.
So, I used to live on the edge of, as you're going to Wakefield, yeah, I used to live in a little, on the edge of a little estate called Eastmore, which is, yes, and literally 10 minutes walk away from a city centre. And the, where I used to work as well was literally 10 minutes away from that. So all my commuting for work and that was on foot. And we had a little train. Kirkgate train station is a branch line of a train station, the main line. The main line you had London Leeds, but your lesser line like Kirkgate was Leeds Gould type line for your little shunter trains. And that train station, I believe, is early Victorian, maybe earlier.
It is.
And yes, there's it was at time was I believe the man station. I mean, but they have modernised it slightly now, but the aesthetics are still there behind it all.
Yeah.
And it's open 24 hours a day. It's a substation. There is rumours of a lady walking on the subway between platforms 1 and 2. Now, when I lived there, I decided to have a little venture down, and I was myself. I'm guilty, but I used to like the technology. I still like technology in a way, but I don't. I understand how it works. I understand how it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And when I've been investigator, I like to consider myself as a conduit rather than letting a piece of plastic do it for me. Because that's an attachment. It's an aid rather than doing it actually itself. I think you lose something about it. Anything can flash, and it's a distraction as well. So I decided to, I went down a few times. I had a few little weird experiences down there, but nothing I'd class as paranormal as such. I mean, I didn't give up on it. I moved away and I went back a couple more times, but it's to no avail. Maybe it wasn't for me. I mean,
well, you never know, but we mentioned Pinderfield Hospital and the maternity hospital as well, because they've actually built houses on there now, haven't they?
I know, yes, I know.
A lot of people, I know that we spoke to Rachel Ashman Brooks yesterday, and I know a lot of people are having experiences within their houses on that site. A couple of nurses have reported that they're seeing people walk through walls that aren't there, and obviously back in the day when it was open and these patients were there, they wouldn't have had these walls to be able to walk. So it's quite unnerving for them. But do you know anything about the Clayton Hospital?
Not a great deal. I mean, I looked at what I was saying because when I lived there, I was like 15-minute walk away from Pinderfield, Stanley Road. So I kept myself more. It was walk. I didn't have a car at the time. I had a motorcycle, but I didn't actually do a lot of commuting with transport. So it was all walking at the time. It was all walking distance. And I thought Wakefield at the time was perfect for that because everything is in walking distance.
Yeah, so there's so many haunted buildings though in Wakefield. The theatre's one of the main haunted theatres as well, and that was, it's just beautiful on the inside. It's still preserved as it was back in the day, and it just looks absolutely amazing to investigate. And I know that they do possibly do like small ghost hunts every now and again there. But, obviously with COVID, who knows? We hope that more people will start to open their doors to paranormal investigations as a way of and a means of getting that extra money in. Yes.
I mean, it is going to be a strange time. I mean, I'll say like a lot of companies. I mean, there are obviously I won't mention. There's a few companies still doing things out there which really shouldn't be, in my opinion. But I mean, say when we do get to back to some kind of normality, I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of new groups popping up and new locations popping up as well. I mean, this lockdown. I mean, I've even been looking around my own house to for things to do with things, little experiments up, and I've also got a little project in the town centre coming up soon. So I'm looking forward to doing that. But which would have been finished now, but I do respect lockdown rules. So.
Well, it's like anything else. I mean, I was lucky enough in the last because I'm in Wales at the moment and my partner's, so it's kind of like I was lucky in the last opening before the last lockdown in Wales, which was before I think it was Christmas Eve we got locked down. I had the opportunity to go and investigate a place in North Wales which dates back to the 1920s. And it's, to go in there, you'd think, oh, there's nothing in there because it's a night basically, and you'd think there's nothing there. But it was staggering. And, that's the thing that I was talking about this morning about the theatre, and it has a huge theatre at the back of it, a nightclub down, in the main area of it. And it's beautiful. But there are some other amazing buildings, aren't they, in the Wakefield town centre area?
Oh yes, I mean there's the Chantry Chapel, just on the bridges of Leeds, Wakefield. That's rumoured to have a nice drawn cabbage outside every once in a while. It's been a few years since that's been spotted because I used to work just behind it, and I looked. It's a lovely old chapel, just a little single chapel which opens for special occasions. But the rumour was, I don't know if it was a funeral presentation or just normal drawn cabbage. I can't work out what it is, but people have heard clipping on that little bridge.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
There's also, I think, a couple of the, oh God, what's it called? The Zion Chapel as well. I had a friend who used to have a flat in there, and she used to talk to me about all of the strange happenings that used to go on in her house when she lived in the Zion Chapel. But I think it's where the land is situated, though, isn't it? Usually.
I believe you're right, because I mean, see, if there's energy, I mean, buildings do retain energy. If any, like anything, everything works like magnetic force. Even ourselves, we're all made of the same atom, just in different formations. And it is, we all retain energy like everything does. I mean, like, as you know, you can't destroy energy. It just changes format, or it'll just lay dormant somewhere until something reactivates it. And with buildings, like I said, all it takes is a little shift in what it believes is in its normal routine, and it could kick all sorts off. I mean, not negative, because everybody looks at spirits and ghosts in a negative way, say, "Oh, it's haunted that place for a reason." But I mean, I've seen some lovely places which I'd love to go back to. I mean, just because you're a spirit doesn't mean you're not liking where you are.
Yeah. Well, the Clayton Hospital closed its doors. It used to be a cancer outpatients hospital, and they used to do an awful lot of screening there as well, and outpatient appointments only. And it used to be Wakefield's maternity hospital. And I remember when they closed the doors, and a lot of urban explorers were breaking and entering and going in there. And we spoke to the security guard, and we asked him, if we go in, would you allow us to go in? And he said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And we went into the Clayton, and there was 5 of us that actually went in, and it was huge. It was just absolutely huge on the inside. It looked like a huge school, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you can actually walk right up to the top where the bell tower is. Now, I know Queggs, which is the Queen Elizabeth's Grammar School, I know that they've bought it, and they want to put a pool and, a sports complex on the grounds of that, but retain the original footprint of the Clayton Hospital. But the EVPs that we got in there, and even like one person, Graham, was such a skeptic. And he was like, no, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in anything. Even he came out of there that night and said, I believe now. I definitely believe.
Wow. I mean, I say, even the highly skeptical, can sometimes be swayed by a little experience. I mean, my experience that I've had mostly in the past, I've not been looking for them. I seem to have that kind of look. If I look for something, I won't find it. It seems to find me when I'm not ready for it. I mean, I did never in Doncaster like that. And Matt, I'll tell you about it if you want.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen me actually in my book as well, under the title Brown Boot. And Doncaster Racecourse is the home of the famous St Ledger. And at the time where I lived, it was probably about a 15-minute drive from where I used to live. I used to on Sunday mornings do car book sales, which I used to love it, frequent, and have a nose see what I could find, especially I like the antique stuff. I also like the little masks, the death masks I've got behind me and stuff like that. I love them. And but what you call it, I thought I've got it one weekend. I thought I'm not actually get rid of a few items. Just I'm knocking them around, raise a bit of money to buy new things, as I did. And I decided to load my little car up, and it was summer, so it was nice, lovely. It was a lovely morning. It wasn't that overly dark. It was 6 or 5 a.m. To get a good pitch, you had to be there for 7 o'clock. Yeah. Everyone queued up early, and they recommended a couple of hours. But I didn't mind it because I used to pull down, take a little book, and sit by the radio. I'm quite happy.
Yeah.
And what I decided one morning, I was driving down this road, going to the main roundabout onto Ledger Way, and there was a little footbridge, and on the left hand side, so you know maybe okay, we drive on the left. There's 3 schools and a massive grassed area. And as I'm driving down, looks like there's a ground level. There's something brown coming towards me. And best way to describe it, I thought at the time, it's probably a rat or a fox or maybe a rabbit or something like that. Some kind of, because there was a lot of forestry around there, a lot of trees. So I thought it must be something from there. And now as it's coming towards me, it's actually running in front of my car. And it's weird because, as I said, I weren't looking for it. My mind, I was in good spirits. I don't drink and drive. I never would. I don't have drugs. I was under the medication. So I always question myself in that respect. What did I have stressed or anything? No, I wasn't. And it ran in front of me. And the best way to describe it was it wasn't complete. It was see-through, but it wasn't exactly see. I could work it out. It would colour a bit as well. It was a brown boot. It looked to be running motion.
Wow.
And before it passed in front of my headlamps, it vanished.
Was
And
that
I thought,
blind school?
sorry?
You know, on the roundabout in Doncaster, you've got the roundabout,
Yes.
haven't you, where the race course is just, you can either go from Wakefield, you come down Doncaster Road, and you can go straight over the roundabout, and there's like a huge building on the left-hand side, which is known as I think it's the Institute for the Blind School. So
There's a deaf school.
That's it. I think it was that one.
Yes. If you carry on going down that road, where that roundabout is, if you're going towards the race course, just follow it, and it's just down there.
Right.
And all you did is come the opposite end. It's the same road, it's just the opposite end of it. I came from the other end, and like I said, the boot itself, it looked like a proper decent boot, in running motion, but it just disappeared in front of me, and I thought, what did I know what I saw, but did I see what I saw? So even today, I question it, and in my mind, I thought, is it my mind playing tricks on me? I mean, I've had paranormal experiences no more than manifestation we can't understand, and our minds put it into a format we can understand. In my respect, it was a brown boot, but it's as vivid as it was when it happened. But it wasn't a scary experience.
Have you found any information out about it though? Like anybody who was killed within the area by anything untoward?
Not really. It's funny you should say that, because I mean that particular stretch of road is an accident black spot. I mean, it's quite an easy road to drive, I believe, but people can become complacent. And whereas black ice and things that on it, there's been quite a few fatalities down there with inexperienced drivers and people just basically not respected the roads and things. But it's when I went down a couple of times myself after that, even in pitch black, and I've not had anything since.
It's strange though, isn't it? And I think in Yorkshire we do have an abundance of hauntings, don't we? We've got the haunted Stocksbridge bypass.
Yes.
Which, you know, I've had so many strange experiences on there, and you know, people who've never been there. It's just a stretch of bypass, which, you know, it doesn't look like much, but when you have an experience there, it's quite unnerving more than anything. I felt like I had somebody in the back of the car with me, and my friend was sat in the side, Shelley, and she sort of like looked at me and she says, "Are you all right?" And I said, "There's a man sat in the back of the car." And she turned round and she saw him, and she's not, you know, she wasn't into the paranormal or anything, and she saw him and she turned back round and her face was a picture. And I said, "Can you still see him?" And she turned back round and he just disappeared.
I mean, the stories I've heard, is a chap at a monk, I believe, and also children singing. And one of my friends went back a few past when he was working, and he had to come into Doncaster from that route. And it's Stockbridge bypass. It's a good few miles from Doncaster, but his sat nav took him that way, and he said he could hear what was like a nursery rhyme. And he thought, is it over on his radio? He thought, is it an interference of stations? He turned his station off. It's turned the red car radio off, because he could hear what sounded like Ring of Roses. Yeah. And it only lasted a few seconds, but after he got that tune in his head, it wouldn't leave his head.
Yeah.
Like a earworm.
And people have had reports of UFO sightings above Stocksbridge as well, which, you know, could it be an affinity to, you know, that area? Is it one of those paranormal hotspots, so to speak?
It is strange, yes. I mean, it's not. I don't believe it's on the ley lines or anything like that, because they contribute ley lines to paranormal experiences as well. They'll cross over. But I say with UFOs, it's another interesting. So I've never had a UFO experience myself, but I don't disregard them, and I don't. Maybe because I'm not looking for them. Maybe we find what we're looking for by looking for it in the first place. But then again, with my paranormal experiences, I've not been looking for the ones I've had.
Yeah. And I think you usually get the stuff, don't you, as well? You usually get the experiences that you, like you say, like you don't look for. And, you know, on investigations, we go with, you know, I'm part of Keep Paranormal. So when we go to investigations, we, you know, we all sit around and we try not to be serious about a lot of things. We, you know, we do like to have a bit of a joke and a giggle, but it's usually then that it happens. And you capture some of the best, you know, the best EVPs and the best, like, you know, evidence that you could possibly get from an investigation when you're not really listening.
Yeah, I agree with you there, because I mean people have been on investigations and ghost hunts with me. I've not done an investigation for a while, but I've been invited on a few ghost hunts in my past, and I'm saying I like to take a sense of humour for me, and I think the spirits in that can pick up on that, because at the end of the day, these were human beings, and they'll have had sense of humour as well. I mean, you've got someone who's in regimental. I don't think it'll work as effective as if someone had been themselves, basically.
Yeah, and when these people are investigating and they're being derogatory and swearing and, you know, just being downright disrespectful, I just think, you know, these spirits were people once, and not many people would, you know, come through to anybody when they've been spoken to like that, would they?
No, I mean, there's a lot as well. I mean, modern society has changed a lot. I mean, but we're talking spirits from days when people had respect and did respect each other, and their mannerisms and their behaviour would be offended by what people do today.
Oh, it's amazing when you listen to, you know, the elder generation, and we're talking about the octogenarians, when, you know, my grandma and granddad used to sit there and say, you know, in my day, we'd never do that. We'd never have that. You know, you'd be frightened of the police and everything else.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's, you know, it's, well, my
husband, my grandmother, she's been dead since the early 90s, but I always remember saying, you're not going out with jeans like that with rips in them. Now they pay for jeans like that.
Yeah, and they're coming off the production line, aren't they, with huge in them and everything else. And, you know,
in my grandparents' days, they'd have thrown them away.
Yeah, well, they would have used them to make something else, wouldn't they?
Oh, a dishcloth or anything, yes, definitely.
Oh, but it is quite funny. So, where else have you investigated apart from well, you mentioned Doncaster, because I absolutely love the town hall in Doncaster. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh yes. So you got the mansion house. I've been a little guided tour on the mansion house itself in the town centre. That's a beautiful old building. Now it's a bit pompous for my liking. It's all gold and sparkly and things on the outside, but it is for dignitaries. It's what they do. Behind all the paint and glow, it is a lovely old building as well. Yeah. I mean, you've got the Doncaster Aircraft Museum, which I do. It's one of my favourite places. I've got a thing for the old World War II type things. I don't know what it is. People think it's in a past life, but I mean, World War II, as you know, it was a noble time in human history, but also brought the best out in people as well. And say anything World War II, which I had an experience in form. I wasn't really so much an experience, more than a feeling. I went to a World War II weekend a few years back, and we had the artillery there, uniforms, young ladies singing. And these songs I've never heard before, but I got some right goosebumps. I know those songs, but I've never heard of it. It was really weird. Now, I've been told I have got mediumistic skills, but I never practiced them. And I've got good intuition. But where my skill, I've got a spider sense in a way, as I like to call it.
Yeah, we always say that.
Yeah. But I say, these songs she'll sing, I thought, there's something about them. It's a bit, I don't normally get that from a song. But it did ring, and I won't say memories, but there's feelings there. I know it's like, I know how things work, and I shouldn't do. I mean, this is machinery from before I was born. I thought, but I know how they work. I can look at them and I can take that to bits mentally.
Yeah, maybe something that you need to kind of have a look into then, having some regression and seeing if you were around in that time.
I have had a bit, because my partner Beth, she's a trained hypnotherapist,
right?
And when she was training, I was a guinea pig, and I'm perfectly fine. Yeah, but I've always been intrigued. But my biggest, I won't say fear regarding paranormal, like past life regression, was, would those memories incur onto my modern life as I am today? I thought, would I pick a memory up and keep it with me, or a trait, and it affect today's? Would I mix memories from today with yesteryears? And I thought, how would it affect me in that respect? And it was a question I've always asked, but never got a decent answer to. Now Beth, she decided to put me under in a way. And she said it's different for everybody because no two people are the same. I do it one way, you could be done a different way, Jodie, altogether. And she said the best way to out for me is I put it like I won't say hypnotic stage, but in a really relaxed stage. And I came to in my mind, I came to a bridge. I was on one side of a bridge, looking over this little bridge, and there's some characters. And the first one came forward was my last life.
Wow.
I believe it to be. And it was a soldier, a World War II soldier. Now, I don't know much about this character, but apart from he'd been his greens. And apparently, though, he passed away, or I passed away on my way back. I was injured, but I died from my wounds on the way back on the boat.
Oh.
Yeah, but I've when things start to pick up again, when we get some normality back, I'm going to go back under and see if I can get regimental numbers or names at least.
Yeah, because it would be interesting for you to find and to research that out, wouldn't it, and see whether this information corroborates with what you find. But also, it's interesting that you say, do you take traits from your previous life into this life? And I believe that we do. We still pick up. But I think that the saying is always, you come back to learn your new lessons, so to speak.
Yeah.
You come back and you try not to. But it's strange that you talk about past life regression, and you're so lucky that you've got Beth to be able to do that with. But some past lives aren't great, are they?
No.
I've read some horrendous reports of people who've, I've got this horrible affinity to being stabbed. It's, if I watch it on TV or anything like that, I feel everything, and it's like, oh no, I don't like that. And I always say, I've always said, I feel like I've been stabbed in a previous life, and it frightens me, and it's just one of those things that you can't really get away from. But
no, it is weird because it's like we say we bring things over, but maybe not just mentally, but physically as well. Because I'm covered in scars. My scars are what were cheap as a kid. I won't say a clumsy kid, but I was quite an adventurous kid. So I've got scars left, right, and centre. But I have got a massive scar on my stomach from an operation I had years ago. Now, if I know it's not for a past life, but maybe that scar in a way is a marking from a previous life. If I was in World War II and I did get killed from an injury of such, would it more chances are I'd probably died from a stomach injury rather than a leg injury or an arm injury. And it is weird because, like I say, skills as well. I like the outdoors. They spent most of their days outdoors, and but it makes, if someone dies in a certain way, that's surely got to come back as well if you're being regressed. But I was told the best way to look at it is not like you're reliving it. You're watching a film. With me, I was looking over a bridge at some other characters, and what they brought forward was what I picked up on.
It's strange, isn't it? But it's one of those realms that I'd like to touch upon as well. I'd like to go under and see what past lives I've had, because I do believe that I was a lady of a manor in one life, but then I was, a little bit of a I want to say homeless. I was a child and I was homeless and dirty and what have you. But those are just the two that I've had previously. But obviously there's no really information that I can kind of research and see what there is. But I'm going to kind of touch upon now what your thoughts are on different investigations. We talk about tech and we talk about all of the radios and the spirit portals and everything. What's your favorite piece of tech?
At the moment, I love my compass. It's not really technology, and in fact, give me 2 seconds. This is it. It's my World War II engineer compass, and I love this little thing. I get my thumbs working again. It's that's it.
Oh wow!
And that is more reliable than any K2. It's got a decent lume on it, so it can be seen in the dark. And I went through the stages of my technology. I've had the K2s, I've had go to SB11 boxes, all that kind of stuff. And for me, they don't do anything. I know how they work. I can see they get too much interference, they're manipulated too easily. With a compass, you can obviously water nearby and stuff like it, picks up on stuff like that. But for me, that's a more credible piece of kit to use, and it doesn't take batteries.
Yeah, and obviously it'll never die, will it, if it doesn't take batteries?
Exactly. The only thing that will go wrong is if I tread on it or something or damage it. But it's such an old piece of kit. I've got a couple of what you call it, like that. I've also, regarding camera, I've got a wind-up camera, an 8mm camera, which I used. Well, I've started to use. In fact, give me 2 seconds, I will show you. I don't know if you've seen my case. I have a brown case, leather case. This is, I call it the Victorian kit. There's a little bit stuff post-Victorian in it, but that's what I use.
Yeah, do you know what? I was going to talk to you about that because, you know, Tom's you've got an affinity of acquiring amazing items, but you are you're very old school, aren't you?
It's strange. I mean, I was born in the 20th century, now I live in the 21st century, but I should have been, I believe I was in the previous century. It's strange. I'm covering 3 centuries here. It's a strange experience, but I'm drawn to old Victorian, like Victorian. I mean, the Victorian-esque era. I mean, I do like the era. I don't recall having any recollections to living them lives or anything, but there's something about it. I mean, Britain in the industrial age, it was such a powerhouse, and but there was such depravity and suffering in them days as well. The rich got richer, the poor got poorer, and it did. I mean, I know we have a Dickens and Christmas Carol type. Picturesque, it shows it in a beautiful light, but it wasn't for everybody. It was.
No.
It was hard times.
Yeah, and I think the Industrial Revolution of the 1800s also played a massive part in our history books, didn't it? Because
definitely,
like saying, you know, the rich just got richer and the poorer just got poorer. But then, you know, the mining started to happen around about, you know, the 1800s, and you know, came into full force, you know, in the middle of those 1800s, and a lot of men worked down the mines. And because we're from the West Yorkshire region, you know, there was an awful lot of mines in Wakefield and places like that.
Yeah, because originally I brought up in Featherstone. I moved to Wakefield, and I brought up in Featherstone when my father was alive, and that was a mining town.
Yeah,
it wasn't even. It was a busy little town until the pits closed down, and unfortunately, it's not as shadow as what it used to be.
Yeah, well, I lived in Crofton when I moved back to Wakefield, because I've lived all over, but then I settled now kind of in Ackworth, so it's not too far away from Featherstone, but even that was just fields and fields and fields before, obviously, until about 20 years ago, until they started to build houses there.
Yeah, and it's like I said, Ackworth's got a lot of history as well. I mean, as you drive out of Ackworth towards Pontefract, have you seen that trough on the side of the road?
Yeah.
That's the plague trough.
Yeah.
From the old days, if people wanted to trade from Ackworth to buy Pontefract, they used to go and trade and put coins in that full of vinegar, and they believed it cured the plague.
Yeah.
The history out of our noses. It's amazing.
It is good though, but where's the place that you'd love to investigate the most?
Oh, I don't. To be honest with you, I want to say somewhere what's not been discovered yet, because everywhere what's been discovered has been overly done and been talked about. I'd like to find a little gem what's not been even discovered yet. I mean, I don't care if it's a mansion house, if it's a workstation, train station. I mean, I love railway ghosts as well. Like Pontefract Bag Hill train station. I mean, I do like there is something about the steam era as well. I mean, to bring that essence back of past years. I mean, surely these places like that where there's been toil and sweat and tension, that's got to retain some sort of energy as well. Hospitals, definitely hospitals. Prison, Armley Prison. I mean, that's such an historic building, but obviously it's a working prison, so you can't just wander around there.
What about the prison? The mansion, as they call it.
Oh yeah. There's Leeds Armley Mills. I've been to the Armley Mills. That's a lovely old place.
It is, and you know what? It was really funny actually, because I went on an investigation with the Spook Seekers to Armley Mills, and we was walking around, and inside, you know, in the machinery room, you've got like all the machinery laid out, haven't you?
Yes.
And I took a picture, and in the mirror, in the window, there's a reflection of an old gentleman in navy blue overalls and grey in hair. And I was like looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, there's nobody in our group who's got that, and he doesn't look like that. And when I showed it to my friend, she was like, oh my God. And we went there. It was just, this was ages and ages ago that we went, but I'll never forget that, because Armley Mills is beautiful. It's a little bit too set out for me though, and there's a lot of noise contamination if it's busy.
Especially the machine room. I say when I went, they actually set the machine working. and it was so loud. And we explained how it worked, and we actually, when we children were using them still, they were crawling underneath, unplugging them and unclogging them. And I thought, I couldn't even get up there. These poor kids, I mean, they're doing that under. I won't fancy going under there. I mean, it can, and they did get compensated for losing limbs and things, but what use is that when you're in them situations? I mean, it's such an atmospheric place. But most of the time I spent most of my time in there was in the little theatre, the movie theatre.
Yeah,
I like that as well. I felt really home in there.
Yeah, it's really eerie though in there though as well. Especially if you're sat in there on your own, and you know you do feel like you're being watched in there, and also the there's what else is there? Thackeray Medical Museum as well. Have you?
Yes, I've been there. I've been there many years ago. Yes. It's like St James's at Leeds.
Yeah.
They've got underneath there. I mean, it's the original building how it used to be, built straw on the floor. And they used to have a couple of mannequins. One was covered in blood and guts. One was clean and shiny like a modern doctor. And we always used to ask the kids on school trips, which is the best doctor? And we all went, the clean one. I said, no, it's not. It's the dirty one. We all went, why is that? Because he's done more. They thought because he's done more, he should be good at his job.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how their mindset worked. Yes, that's how it all worked in their mindset in those days. Because he's good at it. He's done a lot of it, so he must be good at it, surely.
Yeah, and there's the witch, isn't there? There's the witch's body that's still housed there as well, that gives off.
Yeah, that's a bit of a camp, isn't it? But say stuff like that. I mean, it's a weird one because like medical and that, as you know, it's medical. It's not just physical medication, but mental medication as well. I mean, like asylums and things. I mean, so much. What goes through somebody's mind when you're going through them doors? You're not going to come back the same person.
It's like St Catherine's house. That is absolutely beautiful place. I've never been in a building like it, and I've never had. I had an amazing experience in there, and the caretaker can tell you all sorts of, you know, weird and wonderful stories. And he was talking to us because we actually got there when we investigated that with Phantasmic. And we got there quite early, and he was just saying, oh, you know, I'm just clearing up and now I'm locking up. And I just said to him, I said, what experiences have you had here? And he said, well, one night, he said, I smelt lavender. He said, and we've got a beautician who works upstairs, and I thought she'd left something on. He said, when I walked upstairs, there was nothing on. And St Catherine's house has got a beautiful ornate staircase that just sweeps down into the main entrance hall. And it's all gilded a little bit like the mansion house, but it was just absolutely stunning. And he said he'd come back down the stairs, and underneath the stairs there's like a round circular light with there was like a water cooler in the corner. In the opposite corner was just a chair, so you could actually see out into the car park area in the front door, because his wife used to pick him up. And he said it got to about 8:15, and he sat down on the chair. He said he heard what sounded like silk rustling, and he could hear it coming down the stairs. And he said within a second, he smelled this over pungent smell of lavender. And he said, and all of a sudden he felt somebody touch his face, and she said, good job. Now, I was talking to two of the girls at the time when we'd come out of the main dining room, because you've got like the base room, which as soon as you walk in, there's like a little archway, and you go through the archway. Straight in front of you is the dining room, or what was the dining room. And then just back on yourself was the base room. But then as soon as you walk through this little archway, there was a little corridor with like a really nice like bureau in there. And that would lead you down to the kitchen. And I remember talking to a girl, and I was reiterating this story. And I said, you know, the history of this Georgiana Banks, you know, she had 10 children. She left this to the people, you know. I actually said, I wish I could have met her in this day and age. And I just went, I wonder if she is here all the time. And as I set off to walk, there was a young lady at the side of me. We heard a tap over in the corner by the bureau. And then all of a sudden we heard, I'm here. And it was as clear as day. This girl screamed, and the other girls, there were two girls behind us, like literally a foot behind us. And they were like, what are you screaming for? She went, did you hear what she just said? And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I just turned around to this girl and I said, what did you hear? I said, after 3, let's say the same thing. Well, obviously say what we heard. And I counted to 3 and we both said, I am here. And that was amazing. It was just unbelievable. And that place, we've captured so many photographs of, manifestations and things like that. And it's just beautiful, but you can't investigate it anymore.
No, unfortunately, the other company took it over. I think they debunked all the best way to describe it, all the ghost hunted teams, and thought, well, we don't want to go down that avenue anymore. Which is a shame, because I used to love it downstairs in that place.
Yeah, and I think half of it is, though, as well, is I think people were marketing it as being a mental asylum.
Yes, it wasn't. No,
and it's quite derogatory, really, because it was used for the purpose of good. And that's what she wanted, didn't she? That's why she left the house to the community, basically.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that either. I mean, a lot of people who were patients there still have local relatives living today as well.
Yeah, so, exactly. And that's what they said. They didn't want people marketing it as an asylum because it's disrespectful to the people who are still here.
I think what they did, they used the asylum word to make it more sound attractive. Which is unfortunately for the residents, because I mean, little bit of history I found out about my own personal family is my mother's grandmother actually got locked up in mental asylum.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how long for. Obviously, what I was told, and but I don't know the ins and outs of it. But apparently, just like that, no reason, no warning.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think you'll agree with me. The thing is, back in the day, if we talked about some of the experiences that we'd had in the paranormal, we'd be bloody locked up.
We're a bit of witches or whatever, yeah, definitely.
A mistake.
It is. I mean, it's amazing how we have evolved in one way, but devolved in another way, because we are open to these experiences now. But a lot of people still don't want to believe them. And but with that said, we talk about them. We are strange times in a way. I mean, we need that definitive proof, but there's no one out there who can give us that definitive proof, because everything we see is all the same.
Yeah. And I think we all interpret our evidence totally differently as well, don't we? Like,
Definitely.
A disembodied voice. I love it when people put up and it says, I'm here, or you're there, or it says something to you. I've captured children singing and I can make out what I think it hears.
Yeah.
But it's the power of suggestion, what you're asking other people to hear. I'd rather just put a disembodied voice and let people make their own minds up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's because, like I said, two people hear different things. It's like pareidolia as well. You see things out there, you see things in everyday objects. Now, I had a few years back. I was talking to a paramedic, and she was kind of. I've been in. No, I won't say admitted to hospital. I had to go to hospital for a reason. I did injure myself, and at the time, I got friendly with this paramedic, and she'll tell you, I'm a clumsy bugger, and she was telling me we got talking. She's like, this is when I started doing a radio show, and she heard about it. So your name sounds familiar, she says. And I thought, she told me, that's where I probably heard you, because my surname's not a surname you hear every day. Yeah. So she looked at it, we got talking. She's about, when people think you hear people's voices, you think, did someone call my name? And you think, there's nobody about to call my name. She says, that's a sign of a variation of tinnitus. So what happens is, tinnitus, people associate with ringing in the ear or eardrums. And she said, it's not just that. What happens is you'll get reverberation in your ears, but it'll come into such a way, but it'll come into a format you'll recognise, which will be 9 out of 10 times your name. So in a way, you might feel your name being called, but it's just your ears playing up on you.
Yeah. It's possible though, isn't it? There's so many things out there, and unless we're going to literally dissect every single report of if people say they hear things, and I've heard so much. It's kind of like and people don't hear these things, but they're captured on EVP recorders, and you sit there and you think, am I going crazy? And you realize, no, you're not going crazy. But obviously being a medium is totally different for me, because I hear things all the time.
Yeah, see, I've been told I've got many biscuit stores myself, but never opened up to them. I mean, for someone like yourself, Jolie, who's done it all these years, what would you recommend for me if I want to open it up?
It depends everybody's different. So I've obviously been a medium since I've been a child. So it's kind of, for me, I've always had it on, and it's kind of, people talk about switching it on and switching it off, but I know that hypnotherapy is quite good for opening up, which, you know, you could speak to Beth about.
Yeah.
But also, you've just got to understand, you know, you're grounding. You need to make sure that you're grounded constantly, because you leave yourself wide open, and that's, you know, that's when we start to see people suffering because they don't know how to control it. And spirit will only give you what you're open to at that time as well. So they won't bombard you. I know that a couple of friends of mine have said that they wanted to develop, and they have done over the course of around about 5 to 10 years. But what they've done is they've started off with seeing colours. They started to go to development circles as well, because when you're surrounded by like-minded people, you know, you don't feel stupid. Because I remember, you know, I used to go to the spiritualist church, and I sat there whilst my mum was there, and there was a group of people in the corner, and they were like, oh, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. And I just looked at my mum and went, what are they doing? And my mum said, oh, they're developing. So what they were doing, they were just doing experiments. And that's what it is, really. You know, I always think, me personally, I have to switch. I switch off my rational brain now, because I know what they're giving me is correct. And certain things that I kind of think to myself, it's a bit dubious, but then I have to say rational brain off, because if you don't, you tend to mix it into each other, and your rational brain takes over, and you've just got to learn to switch off that rational brain.
How do these messages come to you? In what form? What form do they? Is it voice? Is it feelings? Is it intuition?
Well, I'm obviously a clairvoyant medium, so I see things in the future, but it's all movie. It's like a movie format. So they'll flash things up, and they'll give me. But recently, I've started to see handwriting quite a lot. So they've started to write, and I look at things, and I can see them writing in their own handwriting.
That's fascinating. Now, because I seem to get my best ideas in the bath. I mean, I can lay in the bath. I mean, I work outdoors, so I end up freezing cold. So I seem to relax in the bath, and that, I think, for me, is my like a deprivation area. I seem to come back into myself, and that's where I seem to get my ideas. It's like a new show I'm going to be doing. It's I know you sent me a little message the other day. I am going with that one. I do like that.
And it's thank you.
I am going with it. Yes, it's not my first person. There's one other person who suggested something on a similar line and so forth. I like to play on words, so I'm going with it.
Cool. No, I feel honoured, but I do think that, you know, if you ask spirit to come forward and to guide you anyway, they will come forward. And when you're at your most relaxed state, like you said, in the bath, that's usually when people sit there and they don't think about anything. And, you know, I sit there because I've done all the videos for this festival, and, you know, all of the ideas that I've come up with, you know, the hard hitting, you know, the smile at the end of the suicide video. It was all about a story that I wanted to portray, and the Tivoli Theatre, which I'm gutted that it didn't go out this morning. I'm hoping that we can schedule it later on this evening, but that tells a story in itself. So it was filmed back to front, if you understand what I mean.
Because, I saying yes, yeah.
Because I was sat there, I did the investigation first, and then I had to do the intro, because it was kind of like, I need to understand the history of this. So it's kind of, you know, the back to front sort of thing. The investigation came first, then the history, and then, you know, the reveal, because after we'd done all the research. But it's you know, it's unbelievable, some of the stuff that I found out, but I don't research anything, which is, you know, I can't really research, because being a medium, it's power of suggestion.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when you go with people into these locations, and somebody will suggest beforehand, I've got a gentleman with green trousers. That's what people start to look for then.
Yeah.
It's, like I say, it's suggestiveness. And but I tell you what, I know all seriousness for art. I mean, what you and Cameron does, actually phenomenal. I mean,
no. It's been an emotional roller coaster. I think Karen's probably had about as much sleep as I have, and, you know, I was up until 4 o'clock this morning trying to upload the Tivoli, and I thought I managed to crack it, and then I got a message from Karen saying no Tiv then this morning, and I was like, what? It should have gone. And I looked in the live, because we use a separate streaming platform for sometimes when we do like episodes and things like that. And it said PM instead of AM, and I was like, oh my gosh. And that's genuine tiredness, and, you know, it is hard work. And, you know, I take my hat off to Karen, because she does all of the contacting of everybody. You know, we discuss it all, and then I do all the background stuff. So, but we have a bit of help as well. You know, Andy Saw from Haunted Magazine does a couple of the posters for us, and then I do the videos. So but it's worked well, and we've raised quite a bit of money. So the total at the moment that we're standing at is £1,102. So
that's amazing. That
we've done amazing. But Barry,
yes,
Realm is out already.
It is, yes, by Amazon. It is £5.49 UK. It's available in all Amazon formats, whether it's US, even Indonesian, everywhere. All Amazon's or £2 on Kindle. I'm not sure that converts to in US dollars, but it's very cheap. And I thought I'd keep it, as I said, no one's got a lot of money, so I'll keep it reasonably affordable for everybody rather than be over silly with it. And I will be writing 2 more books when I get the chance. But I say, if you want to put a review on Amazon, by all means, please do. I mean, an honest one of that is a good one. I don't want the bad ones. But it's basically my accounts, a bit about myself, my interpretation of what I believe a paranormal is about, and I've kept it as real as I can possibly keep it.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Barry, for joining me, and I'm going to be looking forward to Frankishly speaking as well. So
brilliant.
We can have a good chat about loads of things, because I think we've only just scratched the surface really of things that we could talk about.
Oh, definitely. You're going to have to come on to it on the show.
Coming on as well, because we can both talk the hind leg off donkeys anyway.
I'll tell you what, I can talk from England, I tell you.
It's lovely to see you again, and it's lovely reaching out as well with your own podcast. So, but thank you ever so much for joining me, and take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.